There comes a moment in life when the ordinary no longer feels enough, when the things that once satisfied you no longer do, when the noise of the world grows strangely hollow and something deep inside begins to whisper, "There is more." It is not the voice of ambition. It is not the call of the crowd. It is something far deeper, more ancient, more holy. It is the voice of the one who made you, calling you to rise beyond the life you have known, to step into the purpose for which you were born. But how do you know it is Him? How do you discern when it is not simply your own thoughts or the pressures of others, but the Almighty Himself? The signs are not always written in the sky or shouted from the mountains. Often they are woven into the very fabric of your days, in ways so subtle you could miss them if your heart is not awake. The first sign often comes as a divine restlessness. You find yourself unable to settle for what once felt normal. The life you built may look fine on the outside, but your spirit feels unsettled. You sense there is something you are supposed to be doing, somewhere you are supposed to be going, yet you cannot quite name it. This restlessness is not an emptiness to be feared. It is a holy discontent, a sign that God is stirring you for something beyond your current place. It is the discomfort of an eagle whose wings have grown too strong for a small cage. The second sign is the appearance of a burden that will not let you go. It may be a cause, a people, a place, or a truth. It may even seem too heavy for you to carry. But you wake up thinking about it and go to bed with it still on your heart. This is not a random concern. It is the seed of a mission planted in you by God Himself. Moses had it for his enslaved people. Nehemiah had it for the broken walls of Jerusalem. This burden may not make sense to others, but to you it burns like fire in your bones. The third sign is the arrival of divine disruptions. Doors you thought would open close. Plans you carefully built crumble. Paths you expected to walk vanish before you. It is not that God is punishing you. He is redirecting you. When Jonah ran from his calling, God sent a storm not to destroy him, but to turn him around. Sometimes the detours are the most merciful acts of God because they prevent you from settling in a place beneath your destiny. If your life is being shaken, it may not be because you are failing. It may be because you are being prepared for something far greater. The fourth sign is confirmation through unexpected voices. God has a way of speaking to you through others, sometimes through people you barely know, sometimes through moments that seem too coincidental to be coincidence. A passing conversation, a sermon, a scripture that jumps off the page at the exact moment you needed it. These are divine fingerprints on your journey, reminders that you are not walking alone. Pay attention, for the one who called the prophets still speaks in whispers and in signs to those who will listen. The fifth sign is the testing of your faith. When God calls you higher, He does not always make the path easy. In fact, it may seem the opposite. Challenges rise, doubts creep in, and you wonder if you heard Him at all. But this is no accident. The call of God is not just an invitation, it is a refining. Like gold in the fire, you are shaped, purified, and made strong for the weight of the purpose you are to carry. Every trial is a preparation, every setback a training ground, every delay a sharpening of your spirit. I think of a young shepherd boy, forgotten by his own family, yet chosen by God to be king. I think of a man thrown into prison for crimes he did not commit, only to be raised to rule a nation. I think of a fisherman who thought he was unworthy, yet became the rock upon which the church was built. These were not the most qualified, the most celebrated, or the most powerful, but they were called. And when God calls, He equips, He provides, He opens doors no man can shut. Perhaps as you hear these words, something inside you is stirring. Perhaps you recognize the restlessness, the burden, the disruptions, the confirmations, the testing. If so, do not ignore it. Do not silence it with the noise of lesser things. The world will tell you to be practical, to play it safe, to stay where it is comfortable. But the God who made the stars did not design you for comfort. He designed you for destiny. When the voice of God calls, it is not always convenient. It will require you to leave behind what is familiar. It will demand courage when fear feels easier. It will stretch your faith beyond what you thought possible. But it will also fill your life with meaning that nothing else can match. Do not wait for every detail to be clear before you move. Abraham was called to a land he had never seen. Peter stepped out on the waters that could not hold him without faith. If you are waiting until the road is smooth, you may wait forever. But if you will take that first step, the one who called you will guide your feet. Your higher purpose is not just about what you will do. It is about who you will become. It is about the transformation of your heart, the deepening of your trust, the shaping of your soul into the image of the one who calls you. And when you walk in that purpose, it will not only change your life, it will touch the lives of countless others in ways you may never fully see this side of eternity. The question is not whether God is calling you, He is. The question is whether you will answer. You have been set apart, not by accident, but by divine design. The restlessness you feel is His stirring. The burden you carry is His assignment. The disruptions you face are His redirections. The confirmations you receive are His reminders. The testing you endure is His preparation. So rise, step forward. Let nothing hold you back. For the one who calls you is faithful, and if He has begun a good work in you, He will bring it to completion. Your higher purpose is not somewhere far away. It begins here, it begins now, it begins with your eyes. And when you give it, you will discover that the life you were meant to live has been waiting for you all along. There is a stirring that comes when you are no longer at peace with where you are, even though everything around you may seem fine. On the surface, life may look stable, even successful, but deep within you feel unsettled. It is as if the things that once brought you satisfaction now feel small, incomplete, and strangely empty. This is not the kind of dissatisfaction born from ingratitude or impatience. It is something far deeper. It is a holy stirring placed within you by the very one who created you, meant to awaken you to the fact that you are called to more than you have yet experienced. This divine restlessness often begins quietly. You may not be able to explain it to anyone else, and at times you may even struggle to explain it to yourself, but it lingers. No matter how much you try to distract yourself with work, relationships, entertainment, or routine, it keeps returning. It might feel like your spirit is being stretched, as though the life you are living no longer fits who you are becoming. You might find yourself losing interest in pursuits that once mattered greatly to you. The conversations you once enjoyed feel shallow. The goals you once chased now seem less urgent. It is not that those things are wrong. It is that your soul has outgrown them. Like a bird whose wings are ready to fly but remains in a cage, you feel the pressing desire to step into open skies. This is how the divine restlessness works. It breaks your comfort so that you will not settle for less than the destiny God has for you. Often, this stirring comes during seasons when life appears predictable. You may have achieved certain dreams, gained stability, or reached milestones that others admire, yet inside, there is a gnawing sense that this cannot be all there is. It is in these moments that God is often beginning to draw your heart upward and outward, away from the temporary and toward the eternal. The restlessness becomes His whisper, calling you to rise higher, to leave behind the safety of the shore and venture into deeper waters. This kind of stirring can be uncomfortable because it disrupts the illusion of contentment. It challenges the idea that a steady life is the same as a fulfilled one. You may even feel guilt for not being completely satisfied, especially when you know others might envy your position. But divine restlessness is not a rejection of what you have. It is the recognition that what you have is not the end of the story. It is the stirring of the author who is ready to write the next chapter. It will not leave you alone. You may try to bury it under busyness, drown it out with noise, or convince yourself it is nothing more than a passing mood. Yet it waits, steady and persistent. It is not there to torment you, but to awaken you. It is God's way of preparing your heart for what comes next, loosening your grip on the familiar so you can be ready for the unfamiliar that lies ahead. There comes a moment when a specific weight settles on your heart. A weight unlike any other. It is not random, nor is it something you can easily set aside. This burden is not the product of your own choosing. It feels as though it has been assigned to you, almost as if it were placed there by unseen hands. You might be going about your daily life, and then suddenly a cause, a need, a group of people, or a pressing issue grips you in such a way that it refuses to let go. You think about it in the quiet moments, and you feel it even when you try to turn your mind elsewhere. It is not an occasional concern. It is a persistent fire that burns within, no matter how much time passes. This kind of burden often comes with a sense of urgency. It is as if something within you knows that it must be addressed, that you cannot simply watch from the sidelines any longer. You may see injustice and feel a pull to act, Or you may recognize brokenness and feel compelled to bring restoration. Others might look at the same situation and walk past it without a second thought, but you cannot. The sight of it unsettles you, and the thought of it stirs something deep in your spirit. This is not mere empathy or sympathy. It is a divine assignment beginning to awaken within you. Throughout history, those called to higher purposes have carried such burdens. Moses could not ignore the suffering of his people under slavery, even when it cost him his place in Pharaoh's palace. Nehemiah could not rest while the walls of Jerusalem lay in ruins, even though he had a secure position in the king's court. These burdens were not convenient. They were heavy. They were costly. And yet, they were the very thing that aligned these men with their divine mission. In the same way, when a burden comes from God, it may feel far bigger than your own ability to solve. It will often challenge your resources, your skills, and your comfort zone, pushing you to rely not on yourself but on Him. Sometimes the burden comes in the form of compassion that overwhelms you. You may meet someone or hear of a situation, and your heart aches in a way you cannot explain. Other times the burden comes as righteous anger, a holy intolerance for what is wrong, a conviction that things cannot remain as they are. In either case, the weight of it will not lift until you step into the role you are meant to play in addressing it. This burden may set you apart from others because it makes you see what others overlook and feel what others dismiss. You may even question why you care so deeply when no one else seems to. But the truth is, you were never meant to ignore it. That heaviness is a clue, a sign that your life is being tied to a greater mission, one that demands your heart, your voice, and your hands. There are seasons when life seems to take a turn you did not plan, when doors you expected to walk through suddenly close without warning, when paths you thought were certain vanish before your eyes. It can be disorienting and frustrating, especially when you have invested time, energy, and even prayer into a direction you believed was right. These moments are not always the result of mistakes or failures. Often, they are divine disruptions, God's way of steering you away from where you were never meant to settle and guiding you toward the place He has prepared for you. A divine disruption interrupts your plans not to harm you, but to realign you. It is as though God places a hand on your shoulder and turns you away from the road you have been walking, even when you cannot yet see where the new road will lead. The process is rarely comfortable. You may lose opportunities you thought were essential. You may watch relationships fade or resources dry up. You may experience circumstances that seem in the moment to make no sense. But what feels like loss is often protection. What looks like the end of an opportunity is often the beginning of the right one. There are countless examples of this in Scripture. Jonah had his course altered by a storm, not because God wanted to punish him, but because God refused to let him run from his calling. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers and sold into slavery, yet those very disruptions became the path to a position that would save countless lives. The pattern is clear. What appears to be chaos from a human perspective is often the hidden order of God working behind the scenes. Divine disruptions can take many forms. Sometimes they arrive as a sudden and dramatic event that leaves you with no choice but to change direction. Other times, they are gradual, closing one small door after another until you have no option but to move forward in unfamiliar territory. They can happen in careers, relationships, ministries, or personal dreams. The common thread is that they remove the false security of your current position so that you will no longer remain where you do not belong. In the moment, it is easy to resist. Your mind searches for ways to go back, to repair what was lost, to reopen what was shut. But often, God allows these disruptions to be irreversible precisely so you will not return to what you were never meant to cling to. They strip away the illusion of control and force you to lean on Him in a deeper way. They make space for the new, even when the new has not yet been revealed. If you look closely, you will find that divine disruptions are not random. They come at the exact moment when staying where you are would mean missing what God has in store. They are a push into the unknown, a redirection that will only make sense when you see the greater plan unfold. There are moments in life when words or events seem to arrive with uncanny precision, as though timed by a hand beyond your own. You may be wrestling with a decision, silently asking for guidance, when someone unexpectedly speaks words that pierce straight to the heart of your question. You may be reading a passage of Scripture and find that a single verse seems to leap from the page, carrying weight and clarity you cannot ignore. You may overhear a conversation, encounter a stranger, or receive an unexpected message, and in that moment, you know it is more than coincidence. These are confirmations, God's way of reminding you that you are not walking in the dark, that the path you are on is not just your own choosing, but is being directed by Him. Such confirmations can come through many channels. They may arrive through the counsel of someone who knows you well, or through the words of someone who has never met you, but unknowingly speaks into your situation. They may be wrapped in encouragement or conviction and challenge or comfort, but they carry a resonance in your spirit that sets them apart from ordinary words. You recognize them because they align with what God has already been stirring in your heart, even if you had not yet put it into words. The beauty of these moments is in their precision. They seem to come exactly when doubt begins to cloud your vision or when you are tempted to turn back. They arrive like signposts on a winding road, assuring you that you are still moving in the right direction. In the lives of those who walk with God, these confirmations are not rare. They are part of the rhythm of His communication, subtle yet unmistakable to those who are paying attention. In Scripture, God often confirmed His word through unexpected messengers. He spoke to Gideon through the words of an enemy soldier's dream. He reassured Elijah through a gentle whisper after the noise of wind, earthquake, and fire. He sent prophets to deliver messages at pivotal moments, not because he could not speak directly, but because the human heart often needs reminders in tangible, personal ways. These divine fingerprints on your journey are meant to strengthen faith, not replace it. At times, the confirmation may not come in words at all. It could be an open door that no one else could have unlocked, or a provision that arrives at the exact moment it is needed. It could be an alignment of circumstances so precise that you cannot attribute it to luck. These moments carry the quiet authority of the one who sees the end from the beginning, arranging details to assure you that you are where you need to be. They also require discernment. Not every voice, not every event, not every coincidence is a divine message. But when the confirmation comes from God, it will align with His character, His word, and the direction He has already been placing on your heart. It will not contradict the truth He has already spoken, but rather it will illuminate it, making it clearer and more compelling than before. When God calls you to a higher purpose, the path is rarely free of challenge. In fact, it often becomes more difficult, not less. The journey begins to test you in ways you did not anticipate, pushing you beyond the limits of your strength, your patience, and your understanding. This testing of faith is not meant to break you, but to shape you into someone who can carry the weight of the calling you have been given. It is in these seasons that your character is refined, your trust is deepened, and your dependence on God becomes unshakable. The testing can take many forms. It may come through delays that stretch far beyond what you expected, forcing you to wait when every part of you wants to move forward. It may come through opposition from others, through criticism, misunderstanding, or rejection. It may arrive as personal hardship, financial strain, loss, or the stripping away of comforts you once took for granted. In each case, the testing reveals what is in your heart and whether you will cling to God's promise even when the circumstances seem to deny it. In the wilderness, Israel was tested not because God wanted to withhold the promised land from them, but because He was preparing them to live in it. David was anointed king long before he wore the crown, enduring years of exile and danger before stepping into his role. Joseph's dreams were tested by betrayal, slavery, and prison before they were fulfilled in the courts of Pharaoh. These were not wasted seasons, they were essential. Without them, the weight of the calling would have crushed the person instead of being carried by them. The refining nature of testing strips away false confidence and exposes the foundation of your trust. When resources run out, you are forced to discover if you believe God is truly your provider. When the path grows dark, you learn whether His word is still your guide. When the noise of discouragement grows loud, you find out if His voice is enough to sustain you. These are the moments when faith moves from something you believe in theory to something you know in experience. Testing also has a way of separating the temporary from the eternal. It forces you to confront your motives. Are you pursuing this calling because it is easy and rewarding, or because you are committed to the one who gave it? It removes the illusion that the journey is about your comfort or recognition and reveals that it is about obedience, trust, and surrender. In the midst of testing, it is easy to feel abandoned, to wonder if you misunderstood the call altogether. Yet these are often the most critical moments because they are the places where you are being prepared for what is ahead. What is built in seasons of ease may crumble under pressure, but what is forged in seasons of testing has the strength to endure and to fulfill the purpose for which it was made. When the call of God rests upon a life, it is not a casual invitation. It is a summons from the Creator of heaven and earth to step into a story far greater than your own. The signs may begin subtly. The quiet stirring of divine restlessness, the weight of a burden that refuses to be ignored, the sudden disruptions that reroute your steps, the timely confirmations that arrive like whispers from eternity, and the seasons of testing that shape your soul into something unshakable. Each of these is not an isolated event, but a piece of a larger tapestry God is weaving, a pattern you may not fully see until you look back and realize He was guiding you all along. The call will rarely come with the full map in hand. More often, it begins with a nudge, a whisper, a step that seems small but carries eternal weight. And in answering, you will be asked to surrender things you thought you needed, to walk paths you never imagined, and to trust in ways that feel impossible. Yet, in that surrender, you will discover that God's plans are not just bigger than yours, they are better, deeper, and more fulfilling than anything you could design for yourself. This journey will challenge you. It will ask for your faith when fear presses in, for your obedience when understanding lags behind, for your perseverance when everything in you wants to quit. The moments of restlessness will strip away complacency. The burdens will stretch your compassion and courage. The disruptions will break the chains of false security. The confirmations will steady you when doubt clouds your vision. And the testing will forge a strength within you that nothing in this world can shatter. There will be days when you question the path, when the weight feels too much, when the silence of heaven seems to linger longer than you can bear. Yet these are the very moments that anchor your calling in something unmovable, the unshakable truth that you were not the one who initiated this journey. The one who called you is the one who will sustain you, and His faithfulness does not falter. In time, you will see that every restlessness was a signpost, every burden a divine assignment, every disruption a redirection toward destiny, every confirmation a reminder that you were never alone, and every test a preparation for the weight of the purpose you now carry. And when you step fully into that purpose, you will understand that it was never simply about accomplishing a task. It was about becoming the person God designed you to be, shaped and refined through every moment of the journey. The call of God is not given to the perfect or the powerful, but to the willing. And when you choose to answer, your life will no longer be defined by where you have been, but by where He is leading you. And the eternal impact that will flow from your obedience